Hey YouTube, it's Jen with Spirited Saturdays, and this week we're talking about eating disorders on vacation. And so it's the summertime, and a lot of us are on vacation and at various stages in our recovery, and there are lots of different places to go on vacation, and they each have different challenges. So whether you're close by or in another country or in a place where you don't know the language, or just around people that you don't know. Each thing presents different challenges. Another kind of vacation many of us take are visiting friends or relatives who live in a place that we don't know. And so, each of those things presents its own challenge. But I guess the one thing they have in common is that they're not the familiar. They're a break from the familiar. And most people look to them as a reprieve, but even most people would have some sort of stress associated with going someplace that's not familiar, even if it's supposed to be a break from your hard work or your ordinary life. It's a stressful situation anyway for a lot of people, so having an eating disorder adds another element of stress to it, which can be very manageable. I think it's important to be very, very mindful the entire step of the way. I think often what might help would be to visualize ahead of time whatever you can, even though you're going someplace that's unfamiliar. If you can even have an idea based on pictures or based on your own mind's creation of where you're going to be, or some of the highlights, or where you're staying. Like if it's a hotel, even if you don't know exactly what the hotel will look like, you can have an idea of what it might look like because you know generally what hotels look like. So if you can imagine certain steps beforehand, that could help. Visualizing is something that has helped me in the past, to just take a few moments, and before you go anywhere, and visualize yourself getting up in the morning that day, going and like step by step, going outside, getting in the car, going to the airport, going through customs, whatever it is that you do at the airport, and so like and planning, like taking measures to plan, how am I going to eat that day. It's going to be maybe a chaotic morning if you're flying somewhere, or even if you're driving somewhere. I mean, it's going to, you're going to have to make plans to eat while you're traveling, whether it's a long car ride or whatever it is. So make sure that you take a sufficient amount of time beforehand to plan for those things, and so that it's not a stressful, overwhelming experience in the moment, and those things are like mapped out for you. And you don't have to overthink them. The less you can overthink things, the better, if you set it up that way. And so I think that mapping out how you're going to have your food the day that you travel is very important, because you're setting yourself up then for a strong start, for a good and strong, solid vacation that way, as best you can. And visualizing the process of leaving, of going to the airport, of doing all those things, and especially visualizing anything that you feel will give you anxiety. To visualize the steps is a good idea, I think, to visualize the going, and then to visualize the being there. So getting to the hotel room, and or getting to wherever you're going, and imagining yourself settling in and feeling comfortable, and meeting up with the people that you plan to meet up with, or or going to a restaurant. What might help is if you're going to a foreign country, then looking up some ideas of what cuisines might be available, and understanding what you'll be ordering, and maybe having a few, for lack of a better word, safe options, but not letting that limit you either. I mean, I think it's very, very healthy, and I would very much encourage taking risks when you go on a vacation, taking at least some small risks, because you do want to partake in an experience where you are, and not feel like you were too safe to really engage where you were, and were in your head a lot of the time. You don't want to feel like that, so you want to try to set it up so that you don't feel like that or that you don't act on the desire to stay safe. So if you're with somebody that you trust, or you're meeting somebody and they know about your disorder, then you can let them know that in advance. Hey, I'm struggling with this, and I know we're going to be going out. Would you be able to help me figure out some things that will still feel manageable, but will also allow me to partake in where I am, and and I want to try foods that maybe I wouldn't be able to try back home. So have somebody kind of there, if there is somebody there to gently guide you through it and kind of be on your page, so they're not going to expect too much of you, but and you don't have to expect too much of yourself either, but they will maybe help bring you out of your shell a little bit and take some risks and not stay in your head the whole time. So that includes being okay with not knowing how many calories are in something, or not knowing exactly what something is made of. If these are things that you struggle with, you really want to prepare yourself beforehand to try your best to put the experience first, put it before your eating disorder, and use whatever support systems you have. That's another thing I was going to say was try your best to stay connected to people back home however you can, whether maybe it's Skype, or if you're still within calling range, calling or texting, and really try, if to have supports set up so that you can at most points throughout the day, if you really need a pick-me-up, or a reality check, or just a coping technique, or just a reminder to stay grounded and calm, and try to have some people in line in your mind before you leave that you can reach out to, and try to have those people be people that, even if you don't get through to them in that moment, you feel comfortable leaving them a message, and you could feel like maybe in that way I know for me, when I leave people messages, it still really helps me, even if I don't get to talk to them, although talking is often ideal, but sometimes I just need to leave a message and I hope they don't pick up. So there's several ways you can go about this. Especially the message thing, it might be difficult if you're in a different time zone, and so it could get tricky. So just try to remember ways to feel connected. So even if it has to be that you talk to that person beforehand and you establish some kind of just like unspoken plan to stay connected. Not unspoken, but if you can't reach them at that time, if they're busy, whatever, you're busy, either you set up a time that they're going to be thinking of you and you can remember that, or you'll be thinking of them and they'll be aware of that, or I don't know. There's a lot of power to just knowing somebody is thinking about you. So if you can even know that somebody's thinking about you every day, that could really, really help. So if you can tell somebody back home, I really think I'm going to be struggling at this so-and-so time of day, can you think about me, and just kind of just keep me in your thoughts. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but actually that's wrong. I know it does, because it's really helpful. It's helped me a lot to just, it makes me feel very linked. It's very important that you set things up so that you don't feel isolated and you don't feel alone, and you feel like even though you're away from what you're comfortable with, in many regards, those people still exist and your support network still exists. And the other thing that you can try is just keeping a journal, a specific vacation journal, or a journal that's just a continuation of what you might keep back home. And using really any coping mechanisms that help you back home, just try and put those into place before you go, so you can really put them into full force when you're there, and you might need to just use them tenfold on vacation. So whatever those coping mechanisms are, whether they're writing or other kinds of visualization exercises, or any kind of cognitive behavioral exercises that you do, or breathing exercises. One is just just a simple mindfulness exercise of just wherever you are, just closing your eyes, taking a deep breath, and being wherever you are and being completely in the present, and telling yourself that you are okay exactly as you are. I don't know what that is exactly. It's just a probably combination of a lot of different mindfulness exercises and a lot of different maybe dialectical behavioral therapy exercises perhaps. But any version of that, like, you can do that across the board anywhere you are. That's the other thing. You can stop no matter where you are, whether you're at home or anywhere else in this world or in this galaxy. You always have the ability to stop and be present and be in the moment and be with yourself and feel connected to yourself, and know that no matter where you go, you can't get far away from yourself, and you're never out of bounds with recovery is never out of reach, and health is never out of reach, and you're always capable of drawing on your own internal knowledge and insight, no matter how far away you go from home base. And so just, keep that in mind. And so keep back to my other point, which was whatever you ordinarily do at home, take it with you. And if you have to remind yourself every morning, first thing, these are the exercises, these are the tools I'm going to practice today. And just keep a notebook with you, or keep maybe even set excuse me, maybe even set little reminders, like little alerts on your phone at various points during the day. Okay, it's time to breathe now. Okay, it's time to distract or to divert my attention from, well, you might want to don't do that, because you might be setting yourself up to think that, hold on. Whew. Where I was going with that was, if you're thinking about food, and you might want to have this little alert saying, don't think about food now, it could backfire, because if you weren't thinking about food, then you might start. So, but whatever helps you, think of various tools that help you. Look at our other videos and see what you can gather, and just put them into practice first thing when you wake up in the morning, and say, I'm going to practice these at various moments throughout the day, and set little alerts on my phone, and maybe tell whoever I'm with to work with me here. And just, I think most importantly, you have to be patient with yourself. You have to be patient with yourself. That's so contradictory. You just try and be gentle and patient with yourself, and understand that if you don't act up to your own personal expectations of yourself, that's forgivable. That's okay. Vacations are challenging, and they might not go completely smoothly, but the most important thing is that you do take a vacation, and you go and you try, and you can then see what happens. But you try and you give it your best. I think in most cases it definitely beats staying safe and staying home. If you have the option, I think you should really give yourself a lot of credit for even going on a vacation. I know how risky that can feel with an eating disorder, so major props if you're really going to go. I think that's a wonderful step for you. And when you, I think before you go and when you come back, you should definitely have a therapy appointment. Have a therapy appointment to plan your way through, and when you come back, who knows, you might be vulnerable to thinking in certain eating disordered ways, depending on where you are in your recovery. So just come back to process it, no matter what. Even if you're really strong in your recovery, still come back to process it. I would say have a therapy session as soon as you can when you come back, if you're in therapy, or hopefully you're in therapy. And if you're not, schedule some kind of check-in with yourself with somebody else, so that you come back and you can process and you can learn from any mishaps that may have occurred, and you can also take in the joy and the goodness and the wonderfulness of the vacation, so that you can have those memories and try to recall them when you're feeling doubtful in the future or scared of taking risks in the future. So wherever you're going, have a great time, and see you next week.